Hello, beloved ones. I promised to tell you a little bit about my journey and what I've learned in life and how that might be of assistance to you. So here we are. 30 years or so ago, I was not at all this vibrant, outspoken, happy-go-lucky, just really could just present myself in front of a camera with no worry whatsoever. I was not that 30 years ago. In fact, I was quite withdrawn. I was quite worried about saying anything. Like the thoughts in my head, 90% of them did not get said because I was very codependent. I was very people pleasing. I was very much aware of how others looked at me or thought of me. And I did not want to make any kinds of mistakes that would have anybody think in any way badly of me. So my hands were tied, my arms were tied. And this was the life that I lived about 30 years ago when one day I was in a marriage with someone I very deeply loved, and we had young children. And I was walking around the house, and I was picking up bottles. I had a big old trash can, okay, and I was picking up beer bottles and putting them into the trash can. Now the trash can was about maybe 2/3 full, but at the time I had just got off of an argument with my husband, and the tears were pouring down my face as I was picking up these bottles and putting them in the trash can. And the trash bag was 2/3 full, one of the big black ones, right? And I was crying and saying, "What's wrong with my life? What happened to my life? My life that was so great. What happened to us?" And I was in a just a mess. The tears were pouring down. I didn't realize at that moment that, of course, it was crazy. I was putting the beer bottles into the bag, but I did not realize that I was dealing with an alcohol problem with the one that I loved. And this was very devastating to me when I got into 12-step programs and started to learn about what was addiction and all of that. And it was very devastating because I realized in that time when I started to grow and develop a little bit that my entire life I had had what I would call zero self love, zero self esteem, zero self confidence. I put a good face on when I went out in front of people in the art gallery where we worked, but really inside me, there was nothing. There was very little there. And as time went by, I began to remember weird things that had happened where I would just like be walking around and just out of myself, didn't even know where I was, what I was, and yet I was walking around and walking in front of cars and this and that over some upset with some, probably usually a man who had treated me badly in some kind of a violating kind of a way. And so um, this was like, oh, or when I was triggered in some kind of way. I didn't know what a trigger was then, but I remembered these strange episodes where these things would have happened. And I began to remember as I was in this program some things that had happened to me as a young girl that literally I didn't even know had happened. I really did not believe these things when these memories started coming back. However, my life was a testimony to everything that had happened to me. In other words, my low self esteem, sort of I will say, like a serious depression, sometimes a thought that maybe I'm not even supposed to be on this earth, and all of that was all a testimony to all the things that had happened to me. It was not from my parents, thank God, but it was from some neighbors who had access to our house because the houses we lived in, military housing, were right next to each other. They connected. It was like, a big long apartment, bunch of apartments, and they could come through the attic and over to our house and down to my bedroom. And they had done that, and these folks were very, very disturbed. I would have to call them actively sadistic and possibly satanic because they had kind of ritualistic stuff around the place. So this gives you a little bit of an idea because I had a little friend who was their daughter, and arguably their daughters, the two of them who had been adopted, were arguably adopted for the purpose of doing terrible things to them. And so when I got involved by my love for the daughter to go over there and try to help her, I heard her crying through the walls like a tortured animal, and I went over there to try to help her. And after that, it started with me. This was horrible stuff. I won't go into it. I can talk about this now because I did through so many years of work, so many years of work. So here I was, in meltdown, having many times been, violated by men and everything else. Finally found the man of my dreams, okay? And then all of a sudden he, instead of giving me the love and the kudos and how great you are and how wonderful and everything I'd been getting for so many years, I began to be getting what's wrong with you. Why are you so, what's wrong? What are you doing wrong? You should have done this. You should have done that. Arguments. Couldn't figure out how I could possibly stop these arguments or why I was always being criticized and picked on. And it was just the little self-esteem I had only come from him, and it was crashed down to the ground. And I was literally at that point ready. I thought about sometimes turning my car into the guardrail, but the one thing that stopped me was my children. I wanted my children. I couldn't leave them. I wanted them to be okay. And I began to learn through that experience that the children of alcoholic people will oftentimes go into either alcoholic relationships or become alcoholic or whatever. So I began this course to at that time it was fix myself so you don't screw up your children. Fix yourself, fix yourself, fix yourself. And I was doing 12-step programs, codependency, Al-Anon, Codependence Anonymous. I had a group therapy group. And at some point, doing all this work, I looked in the abyss and I was going, wow, to even become a normal, decently sane, decently self-loving human being, it's going to take me another 30 years. And that's when I heard about a course called the Landmark Forum. And this I heard 3 different times from three different places. So I knew that this was God's way of sort of poking me. You take this course, take this course, take this course. And it was personal growth and development, but it was transformational personal growth and development. I tell you, I took that course and it was as if I had spent 3 years in a group therapy in just 3 days. I highly suggest it, by the way. They do it online now. It's still very powerful. Landmark Worldwide, I think, is their name right now. They had a different name, Landmark Education. But anyway, I took that course and it literally changed my life. Now, there was a lot more to do. Don't get me wrong. I took every single course they have, and they have a lot of courses. Probably 20 courses. I went across the country to take courses. I would have gone I was planning to go out of the country to take a course at that point. I didn't have the money, but I found the money to spend on all these courses, because here's the thing, what we don't really understand. To love ourselves, to be proud of ourselves, to feel good about ourselves, to look at the person that we are and feel good about that, that's the most important thing. There's no amount of money that can pay for it. There's no amount of, there's nothing in the world that makes the same kind of difference as to love yourself and feel good about yourself. And all I wanted at that point, after I got to the point where I saw what was wrong and I had to shift and change, all I wanted was to actually be a person that I could be proud of, that I could speak what was true for me, that I wasn't afraid, that I wasn't in depressions for days on ends and all of these. Like, if I could be a person who could be proud of me, that if someone, I didn't care what you thought of me. If you told me to jump, so what? I'm not going to do it. Right? In the older days, you would say jump, I'd say how high. 5 of you would say jump, I'd try to jump in all the different directions you wanted me to jump. No, I didn't want that anymore. I wanted to be a totally different person. Now, what you must understand is that the things that happen to us directly, absolutely directly, will give us the thoughts in our head, which will then drive who we are as a human being. So I had a lot of those thoughts in my head from the things that had happened to me. Like, there's something wrong with you. Like, I'm all alone. There's no one to help me. Like, there's nothing I can do. I can't do anything. I'm completely powerless. Just on and on. I don't, actually I had a one in there that was, I was supposed to have died when this other person did die, which arguably was some sort of a hitchhiker that these ones found. Enough said. Okay? So imagine going through life with I should have died in the back of your head. You don't think this in the front, right? In the front, you're, doing your thing, pretending, acting like all is well and everything. But in the back of your head, you got, I should have died back then. So, like, really, it's so important, the things we have, and in like the things that happen to us, in how they drive what then becomes the human being that we are. And literally, I reversed all of that. I'd say in about 12 years of doing all of those courses, I had reversed all of that. Now I was saying, how can I assist you, my friends? And I was coaching, and I was pretty much a sought after coach, and I was assisting on the programs, which is a big deal. It's a huge accountability. They don't do it unless you're really on the ball. And I was in large assisting capacities and so on. And I was helping other people to get rid of the thoughts that they had picked up when they were kids from whatever happened to that and everything else. And this was a huge skill that I got. Well, in a few hours, I can get rid of baggage that you've carried around for a lifetime. No kidding. So I could do it like that, you know. And I went on to try this job and that job. I was a teacher for a while. I was the manager for a group home for developmentally disabled people. I did a substance abuse prevention for a while. I thought that would be my contribution, but that wasn't quite it. Oh, you know, little jobs, because here I was now, fast forwarding, having fought the fight to get full custody of my children because I did not want them to be around that. So now I was alone, single mom, trying to raise my children in the most expensive state arguably in the country, which was New Jersey, and some of you know how expensive it is there. And it was crazy, and so I went, at one point there was a crash. There was a financial crash, and I said, I cannot have my children coming home every day, and the cupboards are bare. And I've done all this work, but the cupboards are bare, right? So there we were. And so my daughter for the last 3 years of high school, and my son for the last year, and my other son was already in college, praise the Lord, but they wound up staying with some family. When that occurred, this was like, wow, this was the universe saying to me, okay, let me give you one little final thrust in there to see if you can hang on to the fact that you love yourself. Here you're going to lose the most important thing to you. What you think is the very most important thing on the planet is taking care of your children and having them grow into the best people they can possibly be. Here they go, they're gone. Now what are you going to do? You going to still love yourself? You going to still accept that divine love from the Creator? You going to still think well of yourself? It was rocky there for a while. It was rocky. But in those days, I learned, 4 years, 4 different places I lived, I learned how to raise my vibration, and then it fell again. And then I have to raise it and fall, raise it and fall. You can imagine 1 minute you're up, okay, then you remember your children are gone, oh God. And that was what I needed to learn at that point, was the final sort of icing on the cake. When everything important to you is gone, will you still love yourself, and will you still accept the love of the Creator? And praise God. I passed that test because I still am in that space of love for myself, and I still am accepting that love of the Creator. But I got to this situation then where I'm in now, and this was a situation of contribution to my mom, 94 years old, who I'm caring for. And then it was the strangest thing. I had this space in my life I hadn't had for so long. Like, I didn't have to try to, what was I going to do to bring in money to feed the kids and to pay the rent and, this job and that job, and let's try to create a business and all this franticness. It just sort of dissipated because there wasn't a worry about that. And that is when I found the most pivotal thing. I had done a meditation called Activate Your 12 Chakras. This was Diana Cooper and Tim Wilde. It's on my page, my About Lorelei page on Patreon. I didn't know what happened to me there, but I just came out of that meditation like a whole world had opened up. Suddenly I knew, oh my goodness, like my friend was into ETs and ufology. She was like a prominent person in that, her and her father. And suddenly the world opened up, like I knew there was this whole world of beings out there, beings that were not human. I'm not talking about just, extraterrestrials or galactics, but I mean angels and archangels and ascended masters. There was just this I could feel every bit of their presence all around me, all around the planet. I just knew, like I knew, there was a lot more going on right now than met the eye. And what I subsequently found after that, in much research, again, I got a PhD in a lot of this research that I've done in the various areas. Okay, what you don't know, that you didn't even know you didn't know, is that this earth is on the path to ascend to the 5th dimensional consciousness. Now, what the heck is that? What is that? Well, I'm telling you bit by bit in my videos, but just to sum it up, really quickly here, the fifth dimension is that heaven on earth, that age of Aquarius we've heard about for ages and ages and ages, right? So when I found this out, I was like, okay, okay, what do you want me to do with this information? I mean, it was years, in the making of me to accumulate all the information I found out about 5D and this historic shift and everything. What do you want me to do with this? Like, so over the years, I've created things. And the last thing that just most recent that I'm doing is making these videos where I can also put out information about fifth dimension, and I do that, as you know, in the videos as we go along. But what else have I created? Because we want to herald people along, right? We want to bring people along to wherever they need to be ready for this, right? So what else is out there? How can I be of assistance? That's what I asked the world. And the answer was, and I'm going to give you some of the things that I've created so you can decide if you are interested to partake in any of these. In addition, during the heat of the COVID situation, which I did not take that very dangerous vaccine because I knew it was very dangerous and because I'm a natural healer. However, I was given understanding from so many of my friends and the people in my natural healing circles. This is what people need to do to heal from that thing. And I already knew how to heal from almost anything else you could get. So at that point, the past maybe 2.5 years, I created this course, Detox the VAX and Heal Anything. Now that's an online video course. It's very simple and easy. So that is something I've created, again, waiting for you. All of these things can be found on that Patreon About Lorelei page, by the way. Again, go to that description on YouTube, drop down Patreon About Lorelei. In addition, I have some other Patreon things on there, some other Patreon tiers. Now that's where I've been over the years accumulating different videos that I've made for you that can help you in a personal growth sense, in a spiritual growth sense, whatever kind of came to me. So you can go and look at the different tiers and see if either of those are of interest to you, that you might want to watch some of these videos that I've created, like a sort of an archive. That's the way I can best describe that. And finally, if any of you have a heart for it and the ability to do it, that you might support me is a wonderful thing, because I am looking to do my part here. But it's difficult to do your part when you don't have the finances behind you so you can just get things out into the world and let people know it's available. So if any of you have the heart and the ability to support me, that's much appreciated. Here on this channel here, you can buy me a coffee, or you can go to my Patreon support page and do it there. So all these things are much appreciated. So is there a way I can contribute to you? Oh, there is one more thing I forgot to mention. So if you're at a stage of readiness and you have done some work on yourself, that's important, okay? So we don't just shock your system like crazy. You could potentially do a one-on-one meeting, a one-on-one transformational session with me. In 3 hours, we're going to get rid of some crud that's been hanging around for you. But let us understand that I don't do it for everyone, so I have to look at your situation and see if I think it is best for you. But if that is something that's of interest to you, again, go ahead and look on the Patreon. You got my email. You can just send me an email. Okay, finishing this up, my friends, sending you that love, that peace, that bliss, that joy, that fifth dimensional, transformation. It's total and utter transformation into the best you can possibly be. Sending it to you now. Namaste. I honor the God in you. How we love you.